and YouTube. Join us as we discuss pertinent issues that relates to you and I with your host, Alinko.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Progressive Mind Show. We are very excited to be coming your way. Our guests are here waiting for us, and we'll be jumping into the conversation very soon. Again, this is the #1 community building show in the world. I am your host, Alinko, and I am joined with my co-host.
Michelle Okenard. Hello,
Awesome.
everyone.
Brilliant. We are located right here in the beautiful city of Chicago, currently live on Facebook and YouTube. That is where you can view the Progressive Mind Show. As we're saying, we are also building a platform in a way that can enable our audience to listen to the show live on our website. We've been talking about it. It's still in the works. We'll get it live very soon. We promise that. This show is being carried by Afro Star Radio. Afro Star Radio is an online oriented radio station, an online Afro community rented radio station. It's also a Pan-African radio station. Again, on the east side, on the east coast, on the east right there on the east coast. We're being carried live right now. If you go online and go Afro Star, you will hear this show live. We will also being cross promoted on Afro Star Facebook, working on other syndications. As I always say, these things takes time. So to all our audience who have been following us and watching and being interested in our programming, we are working very hard in the back end to make sure that you're not only visible on Facebook and YouTube, but on other platforms. We are also on Spotify. If you go on, if you type Progressive on Spotify, you will get our past episodes, not the live ones, but past episodes. Again, working to upload more episodes on Spotify. We are excited to be coming your way. Today is April 13th. The time is 3 minutes past 6 p.m. Again, it's always energy once we sit here to serve our community. It's our pleasure. Michelle, this is going to be an awesome conversation. This month, of course, is Autism Month. And
Yes.
so we decided to, as in this falls in line with our programming. And so we are very excited to be doing this today. I don't know about you. I know you're excited. Um, what should our audience anticipate today with this episode?
Well, we have two brilliant subject matter experts in the area of autism and dealing with disabilities. I think that this is a very important conversation for us to have, especially in the Black community. It is a rare form, it is a rare condition, but it is aware, it is enough, it happens enough where it does impact our community. And I think today we'll be able to get some really great resources and insights from our experts tonight. And I'm really interested in learning more about how we can support this part of our community for those who are dealing with these challenges.
Awesome. And as we always encourage our audience, if you're watching us on Facebook and YouTube, we want you to share the feed now so we can get the community involved in this very important conversation. I know Captain Mike is still having technical issues. We were supposed to take a segment and then go right into the convo. But as you would have it, it's a little bit of glitch here. Let's see if we can get him on here on the feed. Okay, it's still not working. So, my brother, unfortunately, we may not be able to do the session today. Maybe you can call in and give us a few health updates. If you can, if you're listening to me, you can do that. All right, so let's go straight into the discussion this evening. We have our beautiful guest here, Dr. Avisha Ford. Avisha Ford is she's from Chicago. Okay, now let's take Captain Mike. Hold on 1 second. Yes, Captain Mike, can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear.
Okay, good. So when time is fast spent, so just take a few seconds to give us what you have with regards to sports and I'll say just health and the weather. Okay, go ahead.
All right, looking at the weather right now, as you know, it's raining there. You might have possibility of a few thunderstrokes there. Weather now at Midway, you've got winds out of the southwest, 25 gusts and 35, light rain and some overcast skies, 64 degrees. Going to get down to a low of 40 degrees tonight with the winds going to stay out of the south about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Tomorrow you're gonna have partly cloudy skies, high 54, lower 37. Still gonna be windy. Friday is almost exactly the same, except you have a chance of rain late Friday. Saturday is gonna be a nice day, sunny, a little bit windy. Winds gonna switch out of the northwest. Sunday you're gonna have cloudy skies, high 45, lower 37. Possibility of a rain snow mix late. Winds are going to be out of the east, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Monday, have possibility of some snow. No real accumulation, maybe just a few flurries. High 47, low 37. Tuesday, high 50, low 35. Southeast winds, a little bit gusty. A possibility of rain starting late Tuesday and into Wednesday, where you might see some sun late in the day on Wednesday. High 50. Today, the White Sox are going to be playing the Mariners at 6:10. So just about 3 minutes from now, they're going to have a first pitch. Pirates defeated the Cubs 6-2. In health and fitness, we're going to talk about allergies really quickly. An allergy is an immune system response to a foreign substance it's usually not really harmful to the body, and they're called allergens. They include some foods, pollen, or pet dander. So check weather.com, that's the weather channel. Make sure the pollen levels aren't too high. So for your allergies, make sure after going outside, if you have allergies, take a shower, wash your clothes, check the weather, always check the pollen levels, minimize indoor pollen. So keep your windows closed, clean all your filters, and turn on your air conditioning. And if you have bad allergies or bad reactions, consult your doctor or your health professional for some relief options, such as medicines or some nasal sprays. And with that, Tina, we're going back to you.
Okay, my brother. Thank you so much for the update. As always, we appreciate you. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully, we don't have any technical issues. It's not always like this. So, it just happens to be one of them days. We appreciate you, brother. Next week, we're looking forward to it. I hope you listen out there got some info regarding tonight. If you're moving around, hopefully this information helped you. So, Captain Mike, we will see you next week.
All right. See you next week.
Awesome. Thank you. That said, we will go to our guest right away. Dr. Ford, Dr. Evisha Ford has a passion for marginalized youth, which began at early age. At an early age, she earned, whilst we do this, you have to know who we're talking about. So let's get Dr. Ford on the screen. Dr. Ford is a beautiful lady, as you can see. She earned her Master's of Social Work from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and began serving inner city homeless youth, providing therapeutic intervention and linkages to community resources. She was recruited by the Chicago Public Schools during her tenure there. During her tenure at the Early Child Department, she came to understand the complex needs of young children and the critical nature of early intervention. She also became the director of special education in Bremen High School District. Dr. Ford completed her doctoral studies at Aurora University in educational leadership. She has a lot of accolades. I'll read a few of them. Dr. Ford has served as one of the board of directors for the New Roseland Community Hospital, Heartlight Ministries, and Cradle Foundation Sayer Center. She was also appointed as the president of the board of the United Way Blue Island Robins Neighborhood Network. She's also been the president of the United Way. In March 2018, Dr. Ford was awarded Woman of the Year by Zeta Phi Beta Sorority. In July 2018, she was also honored as one of the influential 100 Black women in Chicago for her work in educational contributions. Again, a lot of accolades here. Due to time, we would refer you to her website if you want to know more about her. She travels now a lot with her two beautiful sons. Dr. Evisha Ford, you're welcome to the Progressive Mind Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talking about this important topic tonight. Thank you.
Our pleasure once again. And I know we have Deborah Vines. Michelle will take it from here.
Yes, we have Deborah Vines. She is a mother of a son impacted by autism and a champion for families living with autism and other developmental disorders. Ms. Vine is the executive director of the Answer Inc., a 501c3 non-for-profit organization that is dedicated to providing support, resources, education, recreation, and advocacy for families in the greater Chicago area that are challenged with supporting family members with autism and developmental disorders. In addition to providing essential resources and services for parents and caregivers, this agency strives to help contribute to the continued growth, education, and recreational inclusion for the children and relatives specifically impacted. Since 2007, the Answer Inc. has helped parents to become the best advocates for themselves and their children while promoting opportunities for parents to learn, have fun, and contribute to the community together, educating and empowering each other in ways that are not limited by socioeconomic or cultural factors. Their mission for the Answer Inc. is to provide and increase autism awareness for family members, caregivers, law enforcement, and the community as a whole. They provide supportive services that build and create a more productive and effective communication skills among the above groups listed, and creating a healthier and safer environment for families who live with autism. So, Ms. Deborah Vines, thank you for being on the show and welcome to the Progressive Minds discussion.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure again. So let's get into it, Doctor. Let's begin with Dr. Avisha. We've tried to give you a brief background of who you are, but if we left anything, please let our audience know, and also tell us in your own words what I Can Center, which is the organization that you founded and the president of, is all about in a nutshell.
Sure. I Can Dream Center is actually a therapeutic school for young people with neurodiverse learning needs. And so, of course, amongst that population, we serve students with autism. We actually started almost 10 years ago in March. I can't believe it that we're approaching our 10th year anniversary. But really, I Can Dream Center was born out of the realization that our students really have the opportunity to dream beyond the barriers that have been placed before them. And so we offer an opportunity for students to come, our youngest students, age 3 to 7, to really migrate back into the general education class. That's our goal and our commitment, and also to resource the entire family. And then also our older students, we help some students who are high school age who need a little bit more support to get over the hump and to complete high school graduation requirements. And then our students who are post high school, we really help them with important vocational skills so that they can gain employment. We're a unique program in that we serve students who have the opportunity to be competitively employed with just a little bit more support.
Well, thank you for giving us that brief background, Ms. Vines.
Well, the Answer Incorporated again was founded in 2007 because my late husband, and I have a son, Jason, who is living with autism, and he is has low executive functioning. And so, when Jason aged out of school, he did not have any number recognition, letter recognition, or name recognition, and so we not only want to support the families with supportive services for the parents, but as we took a deeper dive, we saw that the children needed more support as well as the parents, because living in under-resourced community, there just wasn't any resources available. So that's the reason why my husband and I started The Answer in 2007. And we're coming up on our 15th year anniversary as well. We have multiple programs. One of them is called Spectrum University, where we have tutors that help with reading, writing, math, social skills, and workforce development component that we just added as well, because we want to get our young people ready, work ready, because they're already behind the 8 ball because they're slower learners as well. And also we have a nutrition program that teaches exercise, dance, and nutrition as well, because a lot of our individuals are not just plagued with autism and other developmental disabilities, they have eating disorders as well. And so, which means they gain weight and then end up having physical disorders. So we want to combat that problem as well. We also have a bullying intervention program that we do at two different schools right now. We're starting at Michelle Clark and one school in Broadview, Lindop School. We also have trainings that we provide for the first responders so that they can know the signs and symptoms of autism. We also do trainings for retail merchants as well, so that their employees can know how to service families that have children and adults living with disabilities.
Very powerfully said. Now, I'd like to say happy anniversary to both of you. Very impressive, Michelle.
Extremely. Yeah, so congratulations. I just wanted to throw out just a quick statistic for us to kind of put things into perspective for the conversation. So, according to the CDC, and this was in 2021, about 1% of the world's population has autism spectrum disorder. And that accounts for about 75,000 people here in the US. Now, you ladies, please jump in if I'm wrong. If I have my numbers off, please correct me. I would love to hear how your specific programs that you developed for your students and for those who you service has really impacted to help them transition from, sedentary state to actually finding, joining the workforce.
Okay. Great. Now, before you respond to that, let's get a little background of what disability is. Well, I mean, we know what autism is. I mean, we can see, we can hear, but
Okay.
you can give a if you from your work. I mean, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of of course, with all your experience. What is disability? Because autism is that. So yeah, give us a brief background of what that is and why Autism Month and all of that, so we can get again a deeper understanding, and then you can respond to the question if you don't mind.
That's a
We'll,
good
we'll start
question.
with yes.
Yeah, that's like 5 different questions. Well, you know what, Dr. Ford, I'll start with the what is autism. What is autism?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll give the I'll give the layman's term. Autism is a developmental disability
Mhm.
that impacts socialization and behavior, and that's about the most simplest definition that I can give, because it's definitely a long, complex definition when you start talking about neurodiversity and how the brain works and things like that. But
Yeah.
it impacts socialization and behavior, and it goes from low executive functioning in the middle to high executive functioning. You
Okay.
have some children that can count change from $1 but can't cross the street.
Mm.
And then you have some that can drive, but their socialization skills are off. That's why it's called the spectrum, because it's so wide. How's that, Dr. Ford?
That was great. That was
Okay.
great. The only little bitty addition that I would add to that is that it often impacts communication. So
That
that's
part.
the only addition that I would add to what Deborah said. And that was a great summation, Deborah. It's a very big question. So
Good, because a lot of times when we say disability, the first thing that comes to our mind is autism. But of course, disability is disability, and it is very wide. So ICANN Center deals with different kinds of disabilities, right? Not just autism. I mean, both of you work with organizations. I mean, your organizations deal with just disabilities in general. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. So would you say that among all the disabilities, which one happens to be the most prevalent when it comes to the programs or the need of the community, which of course necessitates the programs that you provide, Dr. Ford?
So the majority of the students that we serve have some sort of intellectual disability,
Okay.
and then really neck and neck with students that are that have an autism diagnosis.
Okay.
One thing I would say about individuals with disabilities, they just they experience and interact with the world in a way that's not typical, I would
Mm.
say.
Okay.
And the thing I like to point out about disabilities and this big umbrella and this big spectrum is that
Mhm.
about 1 in 5 people have some sort of disability, right? And so it looks different. I think we start to talk about neurodevelopmental disabilities and those disabilities that show up in a school setting, that it requires a different attention and focus. And obviously, we're required to support those students who are eligible, with school-based services.
Mm.
But many individuals are functioning and doing well in society, but they do have some sort of disability.
Mhm.
And I like to point that out. And I also want to, you sort of asked in your initial question about why
Mhm.
Autism Awareness Month. And
Mhm.
I think it's because it provides us the opportunity to really celebrate the uniqueness that individuals with disabilities bring to society, right?
Mm.
The way that they allow us to see things a little bit different.
Yes.
Deborah mentioned that her organization really helps with workforce development and services after
Mm.
individuals age out of educational programming, which is 22.
Mhm.
we see commercials for autism and it's become a little bit, in vogue, if you will. But the one thing I like to point out, and Deborah knows very well, is these cute little kids matriculate into adulthood.
Yes.
And so we must have a plan for them once they cross over into adulthood. And I would like to say it could just be in my bubble or in my community, but there is an increasing appreciation for the way those individuals are showing up and adding diversity to the workforce and the unique skills that they bring to the workforce.
Thanks for a great response.
You know,
Before
I would just like to piggyback on what Dr. Ford just mentioned, because you know what, and firstly, I just want to give a kudos to Dr. Ford's I Can Center, because what's happening is that a lot of our children are mainstreamable. And the beautiful thing at the I Can Center is that a lot of kids that have low executive function or high executive function, she's blending them to be able to coexist together. And that's a big problem, especially in Black and Brown communities. They don't have a lot of clustered programs. Most of the programs either have the children that are low executive functioning here and the ones that are high executive function, instead of clustering a lot of them. So because kids actually learn from each other, because I'll give you a perfect example. My son Jason has limited language, but because he's been around, I talk a lot, and I put him around people that talk a lot. And so now he's starting to initiate more conversation. And that's a lot of what's going on, especially, I say again, in Black and Brown communities, and lack of resources and lack of people speaking up. You know, it's like this stigma. Oh, don't say anything. Oh, I don't want to make this person mad. But see, it's just not a lot of soldiers out here that's speaking up for our community. You know, black kids and brown kids aren't the only ones that are impacted by developmental disability. It is ethnicities across the board: Asian, Chinese, Mexican, all across the board. But in our communities, people just aren't speaking up like they should to get their due diligence for their children. So yeah, so I'm grateful for this show.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I've gotten a lot of information already. But Michelle, I apologize, audience. I didn't mean to override your question. You asked a very important one that, of course, our guest needs to respond to. But that I wanted to, get a background of what disability, autism is, and all of that. So I don't know if you all remember the question, or Michelle, if you want to reiterate it.
Well, I will ask that question, but I think to stay in the vein of where we are right now, I would like to say, with the soldiers speaking up, right? Clearly, you two are great champions and advocates for autism. And either one of you all can take a stab at it. What has kept you going? I'm sure that this has been an arduous journey. You've been in 10 years, Dr. Ford. Ms. Vines, you've been in 15, right? In terms of actual work, not just your lives, you've been in for much longer. But how has that been for you to keep you going and to keep you speaking up for this population of people you serve?
Well, I'll go first. Well, one of the things that keeps me going, firstly, is my son. The love of my baby boy keeps me going when I look at the milestones that he's presenting every day, and then even the families that we serve. Just looking at how far they've come in the last 15 years, because some of our families are still around from 15 years. And then even looking at the younger population of families that we serve, they have children 7 and 8 and 9 years old. Some of them, when they first started coming to our program, you couldn't touch them. They would scream all the time. They didn't have any social skills, no directive skills. And now they're following directions. They're speaking more. Their socialization skills have kicked up. And so that's what keeps me going when I see the progress that we're making. And then to even actually be on a show like this and getting more invitations to speak about this very profound subject. I mean, when we first started out, and I don't know about you, Dr. Ford, but when we first started The Answer, we weren't hardly getting any airtime or any interviews because it wasn't a subject that a lot of people were interested in. But because the numbers are going up every single day, more people in families are being impacted with someone within their family that has a disability. And so now people want to buy into something that's been around. My son is 34. I think the oldest person in 1892 was the first person diagnosed with autism. So it's been around for a long time. So I'm just happy that the world is opening their heart to autism.
Absolutely. I think I share, yes, thank you. And I share in that sentiment. I love that you spoke first, Deborah, as a parent. When we first opened the I Can Dream Center, it was a challenge for some of the reasons that Deborah explained, but it was also just the venture of a new business. For me, I was very familiar with building programs for students with disabilities. It's what I had done professionally, but sort of branching off and doing it alone was difficult, and it came with new challenges and just things that I needed to learn. One of the things that we first started, we had an after school program for parents. In Illinois, you can't, students that are over 12 can't be in the same after school program as children that are under 12. And so when we first started, we started a program for young people who weren't prepared to be home after school alone, though they were over 12. And one of the things we did is we intentionally had a time for parents to come and pick their children up between 6 and 6:30. And we had a coffee bar. And so we tell the parents to come in, and it was quite deliberate, and have a seat and have a cup of coffee. And they knew that their children were being well taken care of and enjoying themselves, and really didn't want to go home yet. I will say that to see the I Can Dream Center now, no one has any clue the stones that we used as pillows when we first started. But the one thing that warmed my heart day after day was to see those parents so satisfied with the progress that their kids were making, and really building connections and building community. And like Deborah said, those, though we still consider them part of the family, we say once you're part of the I Can Dream Center family, you're in. There's no getting out. And so we're in contact with many of them to this day, and they really kept me encouraged. And I'll even say that I believe that the longevity of I Can Dream Center is attributable to the fact that I really had my ear to the ground with the parents. So I was asking them what they needed. And so the programs that we built really scratched where they itched. And so that has definitely been a driving force for the last 9 years.
That's good stuff.
Awesome.
I love it. Scratch where you itch.
I love that. I love that.
Can I take that? Can I use that in my?
She said something else about the hard pillows. What was that? The rocks and the pillows. What was that?
Oh, the stones that we use as pillows.
The
Yes.
stones that we use as pillows. That's hot. I like that.
Yes, you are definitely a wordsmith, Dr. Ford. So thank you, ladies, so much for that. So as you all progress and you're able to work with these this population, you're able to see the milestones that they're able to achieve, right? And talking about introducing them back into the workforce. If you could just give us just a brief analysis of, like, what does that time frame look like? Is it like a structured program where it may last 6 weeks, or do you kind of go at the pace of the individual and kind of do it that way for them?
When it comes to our programs, a lot of our children and adults, say for instance, we might have an adult that is 24 years old, 25 years old, but they only have the mental capacity of maybe a 7 or 8 year old as it relates to doing 1, 2, 3 step projects. So our goal for the future in our workforce development program is to actually have coaches for individuals like that. Now, we do have some of our students that are truly work ready. So in answer to your question, we can't necessarily put a time frame on their learning capability because it just depends on where they are. Again, you have different ages in individuals that have developmental disabilities. They might be 26, but have about 4 different ages of functioning within them. That makes sense.
Got it.
Let me have give you a follow-up question, Deborah. What's the population of your students you have currently?
We service from age 6 to 40.
Age 6 to 40. Okay. And would you say that would be a total of maybe 100, students, 200 in total?
Oh, how many total students do we service?
Yes.
We have every week about 60 students.
Okay. How about you, Dr. Avisha?
So I'll address Michelle's first question.
Okay.
We're approved by the Illinois State Board of Education to serve students. And so we basically, the districts contract our services to meet the needs of students that are better served with us. than in the public school system. And so the state puts a cap on us. They say the school districts are not paying tuition for students after age 22. And so we have a natural cap out at that age. Typically, we'll have students anywhere with us from anywhere to 4 or 5 years, as young as 14, as old as 22. And we also just started an early childhood program from 3 to 7 last year. And so again, those age ranges are approved by the Illinois state by the Illinois School Board. 3 to 7, and again 14 to 22 for us. So our students naturally age out at age 22. We are really fortunate in Illinois that before the law said that students had to leave, they ended educational services the day before their 22nd birthday. And recently the law changed. And so they can actually continue in school until May of the year they turn 22nd. So for many students, that could be a whole another 10 months of education. And so all of those months count. The original question about how many students we serve. So we have the capacity at this time to serve 90 students. We're at about 75, though we're running a waiting list. Here's why. We're busting at the seams. So we are, it's very tight. Ironically, we relocated to where we are we quadrupled in size in July 2020. We never thought that we would run out of space. And so we are actually expanding and opening 4 new classrooms next month so that we can pull some of those kiddos off the waiting list and be able to serve more of them. We're literally physically out of space at this moment.
Awesome. I would ask you of the top question, of the topic question, Dr. Visha. In your bio, you said you travel a lot with your children, your 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
How old are they?
5 and 7.
Awesome.
Going on 27.
5
and 7. But on his birthday, I think he's going to turn 27. There's a grown man trapped in there.
Okay. Would you say you go on these trips with your children? Now, a lot of people would do that because they can afford it. Others would do it for just so to give this young people a world view, a different perspective as to how we humans has to see people and feel for people. Now, would that be your reason, motivation for taking young kids on all these travels?
Absolutely. So I actually was fortunate to live abroad when I was 15. So I lived in Buenos Aires, and I believe that experience really was so important in the way that I understood myself as a global citizen, and also my ability to really traverse the world on my own, right? With my own skills and to figure things out, because I was truly solo across the world. Since then, not only have I taken my boys abroad quite a few times, but we also have au pairs that live in our homes from different parts of the world. And so I love that when my sons meet someone, they say, what country are you from? And 9 times out of 10, they can guess the language. And so that's been a blessing. And I really appreciate that my sons will see themselves as global citizens.
That's very beautiful. I think that would be a good thing for maybe all parents to do, right? Would you advocate for that?
Absolutely. I don't think twice about taking my kids from school to go abroad, because I believe that what they learn, what they hear, what they experience is going to stick with them far more. So I can.
And then they have a mommy that's an educator, so she can.
Exactly. There you go. There you go.
Everybody can't just up and take their kids out because they don't know what to do with them. Just like in the pandemic, they don't know what to do with them. But you're blessed. You're an educator. You can be like, okay, here's some curriculum. Get to work.
To be clear, it was hard. I'm not going to say it was not difficult, but we worked through it together. It was very difficult. But when their teachers ask me, what is it that you want from me from the year? And I hold this when I'm thinking of programming for the students that we serve. Their teachers say, what do you want? I said, at the end of all, my children will learn the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. I'm going to take care of that. What I can't do for them is create an environment in school where they feel loved, where they feel confident, where they feel secure as young Black boys to come and go. And so with that same mindset, that's the culture and the environment that I've created at Icon Dream Center, one that I will feel comfortable to send my children to, and where they can get what can't necessarily be created at home.
I have a ton of questions for you, but I know Deborah has a hard stop at 7, so we'll try and throw a little more of the questions to her, just to balance it out, so that when she leaves, we can focus on you, Dr. Visha. She made a very powerful point. I know Michelle, you probably have a question, but Michelle, if you do, go ahead before I come in with my next follow up.
Yeah, thank you. Um, so
I just have a lot of follow up for the two
we
of them.
actually
Go
have
ahead.
an audience question. Timothy Vernon has a question actually for the panel, and
Okay.
it's how are children diagnosed with autism, and what age are you able to detect it? So I would like to ask you, Ms. Vines, you being a parent, what stage were you in your parenthood experience where you were able to notice that something was a little different from your son's development in comparison to others?
Mm,
Well, you know what? I will answer that from a parent standpoint of view and as a professional standpoint of view.
mhm,
When Jason was born, he was born at 24 weeks. So we expected for him to develop a little slower. But by the time he was a year old, and I have another son who's 48 years old, so he was just like super smart, just excelled very fast. And when Jason didn't meet any of his benchmarks, and he just started having this faraway look in his eyes. But one day, my husband and I, we would always wake up to Jason playing with pots and pans. And this one particular day, it was complete silence, and we woke up. We was like, "Oh my goodness, he gonna still be asleep." But he was sitting in the middle of the floor in a lethargic state. And we rushed him to the hospital, and the doctor said, "We don't know what's going on." I mean, we took him to like 3 hospitals. And eventually we got the diagnosis of autism, which I kind of figured it anyway because someone else said it. But the only indication I ever had of example of autism that I ever had, and mind you, this was 33 years ago, was Rayman. And so Rayman could talk and Rayman could count pennies and toothpicks and everything, but Jason couldn't even communicate. So from there we took him and just had plenty of therapies, plenty of different things that were going on. And again, living in an underserved community, Jason missed out on a lot because firstly, I didn't even know which direction to go in, and I did the best that I could being a parent in an underserved community. But Jason has definitely made a lot of strides. Now I want to answer that as professionally. It's a lot of signs and symptoms and a lot of information that's out there to your listeners. A lot of information out there for the signs and symptoms that your kiddo and benchmark should be meeting. And a lot of them is eye contact, is babbling, screaming. Does your kid like to sit alone? Do they like to isolate? It's so many different characteristics. But us as parents, we know when it's something different going on with our kids. We
mm,
know. And we turn a blind eye. Oftentimes parents say, "Oh, they just bad. Oh, they'll catch up. Oh, they're just slow." And then it's the excuses after excuses after excuses. And then the next thing you know, your kid is 7 or 8 years old. And then your kid is diagnosed with autism at 8 years old. And so you have to go back. So my advice to any of the listening audience out there and the viewing audience, if you see anything different about your kid,
mm.
please take them to the doctor right away. And how they can get diagnosed is to take them to an evaluation center. And I can make sure that there's some links for resources after this show.
Mm,
That
mm.
was awesome. That
Yeah,
was awesome.
that's powerful.
That is
I
good.
don't know if Michelle has a follow up question, but there's one that I wanted to give Miss Vines.
Mhm.
Okay, so at what age should, for instance, if for a boy, for little ones, at what age should, let's say, a boy or a girl should be talking, right? Because I don't have kids yet, but I have nephews and nieces and friends. And sometimes, some will start talking. They say they usually start talking at maybe 7 months, 8 months. Some talk at one. So, from your experience, at what age should a child should be talking, and at what age should you start if they're not talking at a certain age? I mean, what would that age be? And then should you be alarmed if they're not talking at that age?
Well, firstly, I want to do a disclaimer and say I'm not a doctor. I'm an
Yes,
advocate and I'm a mom.
yes.
But it's definitely a lot of benchmarks that your kids should be meeting. I'm not going to say what age they should be talking at. You won't get me to say that.
Okay.
So it's a lot. It's a lot of resources out there, and when your kids should be talking.
In your line of in your line of work with all these kids you be working, what has been the average age from your experience?
that
Again, not
okay. The average age that a kid should be saying 2 to 3 sentences is a year old.
A year old.
They should be babbling and cooing at 3 months old. They should be saying one words about 6 to 8 months old. Is that right, Evisha? Somewhere around there?
I think it's a little later, but I do want to say this, that a speech delay alone doesn't necessarily translate into
Autism, right?
right. And so I think what most parents start to get a little bit concerned at 2 or 3 because they've noticed that reciprocity is not happening with their child. And so what I've heard parents say is, "Oh, I don't think he likes me," or my son doesn't look at me, or there's an experience that especially parents who aren't necessarily first time parents have with their child that is sometimes different or altered when they have a child who has autism. One of the main features of autism is a lack, oftentimes a lack of social reciprocity. And so some of that comes out in language. When you have a mother and child, there's a natural mirroring that happens when the mom smiles or the mom coos, and the baby will do it back. And so I think there are some signs pretty early on that you notice this is different. This feels different. And it's before language, even verbal language, even necessarily occurs. So I don't want to put too much weight on the time that they talk. My 5-year-old received speech services because we didn't have a clue what he was saying. He's not autistic, and we can't quiet him now for anything. So speech delay doesn't necessarily translate into autism. I think what moms notice most from what I've experienced or heard is really about that social reciprocity, the baby not maintaining eye contact, giving that reinforcement that happens during the normal mirroring process.
So even when they're like 4 to 5, it's still okay. It's still not an indication of autism.
Not in and of itself,
Okay.
not alone. So
Gotcha.
in order to have autism, there are 3 different things that they look at that Deborah explained before. So it's a social delay, it's a communication delay, and then there's something sensory delays. And so in order for an individual to be considered autistic, they have to hit on 2 of those. Something has to be social and something, or speech, or sensory. And so you may have a child that starts speaking typically, and that has a normal speech production, but their issues are more social and sensory.
Thank you. Thank you so much for great responses. You're watching this great episode on the Progressive Mind Show. We're talking about dealing with disabilities, and we acknowledging autism, the Autism Month. It is a very important subject. So this month of autism, we want to make sure that as a platform, a community building platform, we are focusing on these things that we all deal with as a society. And so how do we navigate it, some of the challenges? Please feel free to be part of the conversation as you're watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. We also encourage that you share the feed so that we can all participate in this conversation. It is 44 minutes past 6 p.m. Central. I'm your host, Linko, and being joined with my co-host, Michelle. We have our great guest, Dr. Efisha Ford, who is helping with the conversation, and Ms. Deborah Vines, CEO of the Answer Incorporation. Dr. Ford heads the I Can Answer uh, uh, Incorporation. Both organizations are non-for-profits, and they work with people living with disabilities. I have a question for you, Ms. Vines. You talked about how, part of what you do in your with your organization is bullying, right? You mentioned bullying. Now, um, how does that incorporate into disabilities? I'm trying to see how it connects there. So can you help us, break that down for us?
Thank you for bringing that up. So what often happens, and I'm sure Dr. Ford experiences a lot of this at her school because she deals with a lot of kids that have high executive function, and they get bullied a lot. Although they have autism, they get bullied because of the way they might talk or the way that they don't interact socially with the rest of the children, just many things. So I think in 2009, we received a grant from ICEJA, and it was a violence prevention grant. And I think it was Senator Lightfoot. She asked me, she said, "Oh, what do you want to do with it?" I said, I think I want to teach the community about bullying against persons with disabilities. So we started from there, but then we just wanted to teach bullying across the board because it's such a profound subject. You have so many young people that are committing suicide from being bullied. And I mean, just taking it to a level of where the violence has just gotten out of control, where a lot of children are actually killing other kids or again, like I said, committing suicide. So we wanted to be able to combat that. And what happens a lot of times with children that are bullies, they end up doing other things that compound into going to jail. So we wanted to make sure that we reach all the population, not just children that have disabilities. We want to teach the ones that don't have disabilities about the ones that have disabilities.
That's very powerful, because it all ties into how we see the world, and which is why I'm very encouraged and inspired by what Dr. Fisher is doing with her children. I know a lot of parents do that as well. Michelle, I know you do a lot of things with your son, and it's very encouraging. So to hear more of that, right, so that they get this world view, which helps them in uh, accepting people about in regarding the situations and who they are and whatnot. So thank you so much for sharing, Michelle. I don't know if you had a
I
follow
do.
up.
What are some of the most common myths that you all encounter as advocates and educators that you like to combat and bust, right? So we may have some myths that I'm not sure that they're not able to, that people that belong to this population are not able to work, right?
Yeah.
That's obviously a myth because
Mhm.
you all are definitely training people and putting
Yeah.
them into the workforce.
Yep.
What other myths should we be able to expel today?
Mm.
The one thing I want to say that comes top of mind for me is that if you've met an autistic person, that you understand autism, and that nothing could be the truth. If you met one autistic person with autism, you've met one person, people, and they experience it differently. And so, not just the way, not just their own development, but also the way that they've been resourced, or the therapies that they've had. So again, if you met one person living with autism, you've only met one person living with autism. And there was another piece I wanted to add. Oh, that the experiences of people with disabilities is somehow one dimensional. And I love what Deborah's doing around bullying and around working with law enforcement, because I think that because disabilities and living with disabilities is such a still a nuanced thing, people don't necessarily situate that in the human experience. And so they think, oh, here's a person with autism or a person with Down syndrome. That's it. And so we sort of miss that these are individuals who are multidimensional, who have families, who have grief, who have joy, who want love, who want relationships, who struggle to understand the world like all of us, who struggle to figure out purpose and where they fit in the world. And I think that we have to start looking at individuals as complex and understand them not just on a spectrum of disability, but on a spectrum of living life and understanding life like all of us.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what I would add to that is one myth that I hear a lot. Individuals that have disabilities are dangerous. Now, some of them do have, I guess you would say, behavior problems. Some of them do, and some of them are a little bit more high strung than the other ones. But you know, with all the acceptance, awareness, inclusion, and education that is out now, I see so many people that are really interested on how to interact with the person with a disability instead of just going along with the myth or listening to what society says, or if they see someone have a meltdown, they're just afraid of anyone else with a disability. And for the most part, people are afraid of what they don't understand. So I would just really like to see more people get educated about this disorder and learn how to live with it, because the numbers are growing every day.
I want to just add something real quick. And I think, Deborah, to your point, I think that's why representation is so important. And I think that what we see on TV perpetuates that, of persons with disabilities being dangerous or scary. Think about who you see on the movies and how they portray people that are disabled. So there's something that's happening in media that's perpetuating that. So thank you for calling that out as well.
That's one reason outside of me not having a lot of support. But I take Jason everywhere I go. I take him to board meetings, Springfield, galas, dances. I take him everywhere because I want people
That's
to
true.
see. He is actually my +1 everywhere. But
yes, he has a great social life.
Yes, it's not just because I want to, I want to have him with me or showcase him. I want to show the world that these are loving individuals, and you should, if you have someone within your family, get close to them, love on them, because one day, especially with the parents, and I encourage the family members so much to get your kiddos out in the community, get them out in the community, get the community used to your kid, because I'm not going to always be here, although I asked the Lord to let me live to be 100 with my stilettos on. But I know one day I'm not going to be here. So I want him to learn how to be the best that he can be in society, and society can learn how to be with him as well.
I love that. I have a question. If we could segue, you mentioned about individuals being portrayed as dangerous, right? Where it could really just be their demeanor or the way that they see the world, right? Is there a difference, or is there a connection between mental health and those dealing with developmental disabilities, or do you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Go ahead, Evisha.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And a lot of times you do see what we call comorbidity, right? So there's something happening emotionally and also in other ways as well. I also think that, in fact, I was just talking to my team about this on Tuesday. We have young people who are experiencing things in life that the rest of us experience, as I referenced before: loss, family dynamics, whether they're positive or troubling. They're experiencing so many things, but the young people that we serve with developmental disabilities don't necessarily have the coping skills to deal with it in the same way that someone that is their age would. And so the way you develop coping skills is by going through things and having somebody to add perspective, and you learn that, hey, I've experienced this and I'll get past it. This is a moment in time. And so our students don't necessarily have the skills to glean from those experiences the same thing that you or I might glean from it. And so they develop coping mechanisms that aren't necessarily always positive, but they are intended to protect them. So
Yes, very much so.
Is this where maybe kind of like, Deborah, you mentioned earlier in the conversation about eating disorders, right? That too can be a place of intersectionality with comorbidity and possibly even substance use disorders. Is that ever an issue in the population that you two serve?
Well, I haven't had any problems with any of our family members that have dipped into drugs or anything, because a lot of the families that I serve, children have low executive function. They have to be with someone at all times. But I think drug abuse is rapid in any population, and like again, you have a lot of our students that do have high executive function, and they hang out with a lot of the kids that are using them and teaching them things that are not good for them, and so you do have some drug abuse amongst our population, but it's something that I have not experienced. But getting back to your initial question as it relates to mental health, there's a fine line between developmental and mental health. And that's where a lot of I was speaking to Commissioner Brandon Johnson about this, because a lot of funding goes into mental health as it relates to schizophrenia and a lot of the mental health disorders. And something that I'm really intentional about right now is making sure that funding we get more funding in a developmental disability and intellectual disability bucket, because we require a lot that we're not getting in the community, and it takes funds. So
what are you being challenged with in the areas of resources? So maybe some of our listeners who would like to help and support this effort, what are your challenges and what can you use help with right now?
Go to www.theanswerinc.org and click donate.
Yes, we will definitely
No, okay. In answer to your question, funding is definitely a lack of, because we want to do so many things, and I'm sure Dr. Ford is going through this as well. And God bless you with being able to expand and add those extra classrooms, because waiting lists are everywhere for everybody. But we need money. We need money, especially in Black and brown communities. We need money because, the tax levies are different and everything is different as it relates to our community. But if there's anyone out there that wants to sow into an underserved community, please sow into the ICANN Center and to the Answer Incorporated.
Thank you, Deborah. For us,
before you come in, Dr. Avisha, and then we have about 4 minutes or 5 minutes for Ms. Vines to leave us, but I wanted to give her this question before she takes leave. Okay, so during the earlier submission of Dr. Avisha, she mentioned 1 out of 5. I don't know if it's everyone or just brown and Black people that has autism, but 1 out of 5 people have autism. Now, you also mentioned how the conversation about autism in the past has improved. The awareness has improved drastically or dramatically, which means that there is a good trajectory when it comes to dealing with disability, creating awareness, and all of that. What would you say in your line of work? And I know you're not a medical doctor, but what would you say you have learned as the root cause, the main cause of autism or disability in people in this country?
Well, I can't call that. I cannot say what the cause of autism is, because right now they don't know what the cause of autism is.
Okay.
But what I do know is that our children and adults can get better with extensive therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, ABA therapy, behavior therapy, taking them in the community, loving on them, being intentional about sharing them and mainstreaming them. Is so many ways they can get better. I never dreamed, and I'm not going to say I didn't dream, but the doctors said that firstly, my son wouldn't live. They said he wouldn't talk. They said he wouldn't walk. And I see so many milestones, not just in my Jason, but in so many of the families that we service. And I'm sure Dr. Ford can piggyback on this as well, because it's being consistent. There is no cure for autism. I was speaking to right now, the CDC, the doctors are saying there's no cure. Anybody can get better from anything, I believe, especially developmentally or intellectually. You have to just be consistent. Yes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. And you have to be consistent, though. You have to be consistent.
All right. It's 2 minutes.
Alinko, really
Yes, go ahead.
I didn't say that 1 in 5 have autism. I said that 1 in 5 individuals is living with a disability.
Thank you for the clarification. I really appreciate that. And so it's 2 minutes to 7. We will take a short break. When we come back, the conversation, Dr. Avisha, will come to that response that you were going to give us earlier.
Bye, everybody.
Please hold on to that.
Nice to see you.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, the conversation continues. This is the Progressive Mind Show. I'm your host, Alinko, with my co-host, Michelle O. We shall be right back after this short break. Very talented young people who have decided to follow.
Then another year it starts again. Well, this is different.
We should definitely be talking to these wonderful people. Once again, we urge you to share the feed on Facebook.
Hi there, I'm Faida, and today we're going to be talking about the African diaspora in Mexico.
Whether UK likes it or not, I have to leave this country.
I became a member and a chief of the Vice Lord all in one day.
All these guys, winds are out of the north at Midway Airport.
His father,
Rise and beast.
Okay, kids, we have had to come to an end of this beautiful set.
We are tired.
It's not about the
This is the inside account of the week that brought the Rainbow Nation to its knees.
Right now.
Essentially, welcome back to the show. This is Alinko. I hope I didn't catch you off guard, Dr. Ford.
Okay.
Sorry about that. We had to cut into the commercial break so we can make time. It's 1 minute past 7 p.m. We would continue the conversation with dealing in the conversation we're having today, dealing with disabilities, is Autism Awareness Month. And we want to make sure that we are being part of the conversation. So please keep engaging. If you're on Facebook, we are encouraging your feedback. There have been a couple on here that we want to read, and then we'll go to our guest, Dr. Evisha Ford. Michelle, we do have a few comments.
We do. We have quite a few. We have someone. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we asked that question already. We have Michelle Lowe Davis. She said it usually starts at age 2. A lack of eye contact, the inability to reach certain milestones, such as certain words, by a certain age. They don't play with toys the same way other children do, etc. My son was diagnosed at 2.5, 3 years old. Thank you so much for sharing, Michelle. We also have Kay Marie, who chimed in and said tiptoe walking and arm flapping are early signs of autism as well. So thank you for sharing that. And we also do have Tawana Booth, who said, be aware, be acceptance, be educated about autism. And yes, that is definitely our goal here today, is to advocate and inform. Evelyn Asante, thank you all so much for this wonderful program. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for tuning in to us here today. And we have one more. There are so many theories on the cause: genetics, vaccines, environment, diet. You are so right, Kay Marie. And
are you a doctor? Michelle, you're not a doctor. How do you say she's
no,
so right?
Because there are so many. No, she is right because there are so many theories out there that cause autism, and one is highly around vaccination, early vaccinations in children, just the general childhood vaccinations that children take, and there's a spike even in the Black and Brown community. So that it really is a big theory. And I would even love to hear from you, Dr. Ford, your experience. I know, like you said, no one really knows the cause of autism, but we all have our theories, or we may be conspiracy theorists. But I would love to, about that, hear from your point of view as well.
I will agree with the comment that there are a lot of theories. I'm not sure that we have that we know. I will say that most people who work in the autism community that I know of have made the decision to space out their children's vaccinations. So right or wrong, I know I certainly did. I didn't give my children vaccinations in the schedule that was recommended, and I sort of added space with them. But I don't know what the answer is to that. But it's a good question. There are a lot of theories floating around. But I do want to say I'm not sure that there's necessarily an increase in Black and Brown community, or if there's an increase in diagnosis and acknowledgement, because there are several, because autism is on the spectrum, there are several forms of mild autism. And I think we're just now starting to recognize signs and symptoms. And as a society, we're becoming more educated about what that looks like. And a little bit less stigma around it allows us to approach it and get the services that are needed.
And to our audience, next time we will have a medical doctor on this. If we were doing this topic, we would to answer some of these technical questions, because I do understand that we know there are causes, but they can speak on authority, and so. But thanks so much for the comments that have come through so far. Tawana says, "Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tawana, for." Chiming in. Hey, Tawana. Okay, this is from Kay Mary responding to that. And then this one says, be aware. Okay, I think we already read that. There's a new one that just came through. This one right here says, in regards to Chicago policy policing, especially in especially in the Black and brown neighborhoods? Are your organization doing anything to combat the wrongful lockups of teens with disabilities? What a brilliant question.
It is. It's a great one. I think Deborah mentioned at the answer that they are really working to resource and educate first responders on working with individuals and addressing the unique needs of individuals with disabilities. At the Icon Dream Center, and I didn't mention this when you talked about sort of us getting started, but for me, my passion was really around addressing the needs of marginalized youth. A lot of times, our students who are 65% of the students we served are black and brown. What happens is they don't necessarily finish school, and so they drop out of high school and into the criminal justice system. And so we really pride ourselves in being able to interrupt that pipeline, which we all know so much about. With regard to policing, we have recently also received funds from ICEJA. And so we're taking what's called Illinois weed money. And so for those folks who are outside of Illinois, when marijuana got legalized, they did set some funds aside to address the hardest hit or over-criminalized communities. Because people would be surprised to know that one of those communities is persons with disabilities. So there is a disproportionate number of individuals with disabilities who are incarcerated and doing serious time. Almost all of the folks who have been on death row do have an intellectual disability.
Wow.
And so, exactly. And so we receive funds to be able to train those folks to be able to participate in the workforce and to offer training for a certified nursing program and some other training programs for young people with disabilities. So that's really our contribution to that.
Dr. Ford, how many staff do you control in your organization?
That's a great question. I should know off the top of my head. I think at last count about 32.
Good.
Team members.
Good. And you're dealing with all the students and your family to take care of and your personal life. How difficult has it been for you to navigate through all of this?
Oh, it's been interesting. I'm learning to just enjoy each season for what it is, right? I think there's this notion of like this work-life balance. One of the things that I really strive to do is to make Icon Dream Center a super fun place to come to. We do difficult work and we put our hearts and souls into it. And so one of the things that I pride myself in doing is really hire people that are passionate and that really love the students that we're working with. And we have a ton of fun at the Icon Dream Center. So admittedly, it doesn't always feel like work when we're there. Tomorrow we have a sneaker ball, and I tell you that my team is just as excited about this dance tomorrow. The adults are ordering dresses and suits and all kind of things to wear with their sneakers. So we have a good time when we're there, and we really build a culture of love and care to be able to pat with the hopes that they'll matriculate to the students that we serve too.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much. I have this follow-up question for you. I know Michelle's babbling with some follow-ups, but please, Michelle, let me get this one before I forget. In your bio, something that I noticed is you were director of special education in Bremen High School District. For you completed your doctoral. No, that's not it. There is something that I noticed here that I wanted to get into, but whilst I look for it, Michelle, you can go ahead with your question. I'm going to find that question. I'll come back to it.
So I can understand you work with disinvested communities, right? And the challenges of just getting resources to those families, I'm sure has been a very daunting task. How are you able to work with the caregivers of these individuals? And what challenges and what triumphs have you seen in your tenure in your field?
Great question. We've all, from the very beginning, we said that our goal was to support youth and restore families. So one thing I can say is that families who are living with persons with disabilities have an extra challenge on their hand. Parenting in and of itself is difficult, right? And so then you layer on these doctor's appointments and IEP meetings and screenings and all these other things. And it's really challenging, so much so that the divorce rate for families with children with autism, I want to say at last check was something like 75 or 80%. That's huge. That tells you that that's a stressor.
Yeah.
So we saw that from the very beginning and thought we want to impact change. And so we've done lots of different programming for parents over the years. Some of it's been didactic, let us show you how to advocate at the school meetings. And some of it, as this last year, we've gone to offering what we call parent retreats. And so it's really a sacred space for parents to come once a month. We're able to do that because of a generous grant by Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so once a month, we pull parents and we say, hey, your young people are taken care of, and we have concurrent programming for the young people, and we sort of talk to parents about the things that are important to them, their hopes, their dreams, their challenges, and we say that you're part of the I Can Dream family as well. Beyond that, I would say that we really try to, I think I mentioned this before, listen to what's happening with the parents so we can think about programming from their perspective so that it's beneficial. So we're really blessed to have had this grant this year. And then one of the other things that we're doing is we have a parent coach. And so we are looking to bring her into the fold for even our intake process from the very beginning. So when a family comes on and enrolls with I Can Dream Center, they know that here's this outside person that's not coming to dictate anything to you, but rather to be an ear for you and a thought partner for you for the things that are challenging in your household and for your family.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And so I found this. I found what I was trying to, the question I was looking for. Joey, so during your doctoral program in Aurora University, your research focus was on students with disabilities, youth resilience, and critical race theory. I'm trying to see the connectivity there for you. How does those three relate? What's the correlation?
So the I Can Dream Center was the 5th program that I built for children with disabilities. During my time at Berman High School District, what I was noticing is that there were Black and brown students who were being excluded by the droves because of behavior and different things that was happening. And so I was really brilliantly commissioned by the superintendent to develop programs for them and refine some programs that were already in place.
Okay.
And so what we found is that our students were successful. And so I, being a researcher and curious, wanted to know what was the difference maker for those students. And so what I found, I won't make you read the whole dissertation, is that students feeling connected was really important to their success. And so them having a very real connection. So what was happening in the programs where we were supporting them was we were putting them with smaller groups within the high school. We weren't necessarily sending them to alternative settings, but smaller groups within the high school where they felt seen and known, and they were able to really make progress toward graduation as a result of that. A lot of times our students, particularly the ones of color, particularly the ones that were often in trouble, and repeatedly and as a pattern, didn't necessarily have anyone that they were feeling connected to in the high school. And so consequently, the I Can Dream Center started as a result of the success of those programs. So I approached my superintendent at the time and I said, hey, I built these programs. We see the success. We're saving the school district millions of dollars by not sending these students out. I have an idea. I'm also seeing that students are having a hard time who are already deficient toward progress to graduation to getting started. And I work with the local junior college to start the program and to think about how to service those students. And ultimately, he told me, no, I couldn't start the program. And for a lot of reasons, not the least of which we were in the middle of negotiating the contract. And so I took that blueprint that I wrote and I resigned my role and I opened the I Can Dream Center the next year. So had it not been for that no or that failure, there will be no I Can Dream Center. So.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing. Such a powerful one, such a powerful story. We really appreciate it. 7:15. You can chime into this conversation by ringing 815-277-5047. 815-277-5047. Before we continue the show, we want to keep reminding our audience and the entire African diaspora that June 4th, we should look out for this powerful event coming up. Is the exchange ceremony. It's the exchange ceremony. We are celebrating, connecting our communities. We are also coming to display the beautiful culture of black people. Whether you are from the Caribbean, if you're an African American, if you're continental African or Latinx, we share the same heritage. And so the African diaspora is coming together to exchange our cultures at the Rainbow Push Coalition Center, Convention Center. It's going to be a beautiful moment for all of us. June 4th is the date. Save it. Now, the climax of that event will be the coronation of a chieftaincy title on Reverend Jesse Jackson. If you want to see him on being honored in a very traditional African, in a very African traditional form or way, you want to be at this event. Something that a cultural event that you have not experienced yet in Chicago. So make a date. Just make sure you're booking that. You're reserving June 4th. With further announcement, further details will be on our social media pages. Early tickets are ready, and I know Michelle has some information on that.
Yes. So we actually are running our early bird ticket special, where you are able to get full access to the exchange ceremony, even as a VIP, at a deep discounted rate. Only for this week only. So we do encourage everyone to please take advantage of those savings. If not, we will be still, accepting you all and your tickets. We'll even be selling tickets at the door. But we do ask that you do not wait. They will not be VIP, but they will be general admission only. So now is the time to really secure your VIP ticket.
Absolutely, and I think we have it on Eventbrite.
Yes.
The event, yeah, definitely, it's on Eventbrite. So when you go there, you can look at the details. If you go on the pmsshow.com, which is our website, or if you just type the Progressive Mind Show and you go to the Exchange Ceremony tab, it's going to be a lot of information regarding this event. The first time we started it was in 2019. So that was the first time. So you have a lot of information on how we started, what it means to us, and where we're trying to go with this. And so due to the pandemic, a lot of events had to be on hold. And God being so good, this year has been cleared, and so we're going to have this event, and it's going to be a yearly event. It's going to be a yearly ceremony of Black people coming together, celebrating our culture and our beauty, and of course our humanity. So that's with that. We'll continue this discussion this evening, which is dealing with disabilities. We be acknowledging the month of this Autism Month of April, and so let's not just keep the conversation here. Right after this, I hope that you would have taken something from here and passed it on. Let's help in building our communities as we engage in these very important topics. I know we have gotten Dr. Visha to give us a lot of insights to what she does and more information on disabilities and autism in general. We will try and end this program a little earlier today, maybe around 7:30. We should be wrapping up if we are able to get everything we plan to get out of our special guest today. What Dr. Vish, I know, Michelle, you may have a follow-up question for her, but I was just thinking about this. Did you always know that you were going to be in this space growing up? And if not, what pushed you here? What drives you? What is that thing that always make you want to wake up and keep doing this?
That's an interesting question. I have a long answer and a short answer. So I'll try to condense that. I went to undergrad and became a social worker. I studied both social work and psychology. Okay. At the time, I didn't know what that meant. I never seen a social worker. But what appealed to me is something that really watered a seed that had been planted a long time ago. And it was really the ability to empower and add supports for people that needed it. My father died before I went to high school. It was a really tough summer because my grandfather passed away and my father in the same summer. During that summer, my sister also got married. So it was a pretty intense summer for my family and for my mother, as you can imagine. And I can remember during that time really feeling like I was left alone to sort of figure things out. And it wasn't with any nefarious cause at all. It was just that my mother was going through quite a bit during that time. And so I remember thinking that I wanted to make sure that young people had everything that they needed when they were going through various struggles in life. And so that seed was planted when I understood social work and the opportunities there. It watered that seed when I understood the plight of marginalized young people. It further watered that seed. And I can remember sitting in church one Sunday and having understood, marginalized youth with disabilities. And I told you about the program that I wrote that wasn't received by my superintendent because of the timing.
Yep.
And the pastor said, if you see the need, then that's the call.
Mm.
And so I saw the need. It was clear before me. And so that was the call. And so that has continued to wake me up and keep me going every day in the difficult moments when I'm buried in paperwork, when I'm trying to figure out funding. We just had this expansion and my team said, are we worried about how we're going to buy furniture? I said, we don't have the money, but I'm not worried. And sure enough, we got a donation just in time to cover the cost of the furniture for our new classroom.
Wow.
So it's been that way over and over again, confirmation that we're on the right path and meeting the needs of these people, young people.
Again, off topic. So as an African, I see how Africans deal with people living with disabilities within our communities, within our families, autism and all of that. Africans are very spiritual. And a lot of times they deal with it spiritually. Right? Pray towards it, we pray for it, we pray against it. You know what I'm saying? Like we just prayer. Of course, we seek medical. Here in the diaspora, we seek a lot of medical attention in addition to prayer. But back in Africa, it's been handled in a very spiritual way. Now, for you, how has spiritualism played out in helping you stay grounded, and of course achieving all that you have achieved so far, and more so the task that you handle day in day out? Is there any spirituality there in the first place? If it's not, that's fine, but we just want to know how it plays out in your life and in your work.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's such an important one, and I think it's so connected with who we are as a people, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say that was really the starting point for me. It's understanding myself as a person created by God and put here for His purposes.
Absolutely.
So there was never a point in my mind where I understood I Can Dream Center as anything different. So I tell this story, and it maybe perhaps I come across as the hero in it, that I left and I started the program. And behind the scenes was me kicking and screaming, saying, now at this point, but I was so clear as I'm talking today, that the time was then and that I was to move at that moment. And without a vision, I'm a planner. I have 2 years ahead of me in my mind, or more right now, even more, right, as I think about being in this phase of life. And so it was a difficult decision to make, but one that I knew wasn't mine, but rather was placed and crowned in my heart. So yeah, for sure, it's the center of what I do.
Okay. Thank you so much for a brilliant response. Michelle, I know I know you have some questions, also follow-ups for her.
Yes, I do. And it's in regards to your professional perspective. So you mentioned earlier about the I Can Dream Center and the environment that you create for your students and for the families, right? And so it's a loving environment. It's an environment where they're able to thrive, right? And so I know Deborah, when she was on earlier, she mentioned your strategy and how you are able to cluster students together where they're able to learn from one another. And earlier in the show, we also learned that autism, or a sign of autism, has social challenges and isolation, right? So how have you been able, specifically with your autistic students, been able to connect them and make them feel connected, even with the social barriers and challenges that they face just by having the disorder?
Great. That's a great question. And I think that one of the things we do is really just get to know our students very well. So we know them, we know their likes, we know their dislikes. And even though we serve, 75 students, we're very connected with them. We have a huge team. And so without any like formal organizing or mentorship or partnering, our team just knows our students exceptionally well. And so we really hook them what's important to them and what's relevant to them. And so even our students that struggle socially, they're excited to come out to the things that we offer. One of the questions that Alinko had asked about was sort of what we need funding for. Tuition covers the in-class instruction, right? What we offer from 8:45 until 2 p.m. is what the tuition covers. But we would not see our students making the progress that they're making if we just stop there. We offer, like I said, the programming for families. Well, during the programming for families, we're also programming and offering therapeutic things for our students at that time, right? Social programming for our students. We also offer Saturday programming for our young people. And that's completely recreational. So on Thursday night, tomorrow night, if you see us all in our prom dresses and sneakers dancing, that's completely recreational. But it's an opportunity for our young people to socialize, right? To understand the process of asking, do you want to dance with me? Or asking the DJ, can you play this song? Which we take for granted as something like, hey, I want to hear this song. I'm gonna go up and ask the DJ. But it's a chance for our students to really try on the skills that we're working so hard to teach them during the school day. We had Cupcake Wars. I want to mention that we have a cookbook coming out. We've actually been able to partner with a celebrity chef, Jerome Brown, to write this cookbook for our students. With our students, we've noticed that cooking and being in the kitchen is levels the playing field for our students. It's a way for them to explore their creativity. And they're also learning life skills and science and spelling and measuring and all these things. And so that's really been a plus for us. So we have Cupcake Wars and we have a choir and we do all these things outside of the traditional school day to really have our young people to have a whole person experience, right? And so I think that's how we've been able to overcome the barriers that they've come with and have them excited to come to school and all the activities.
I think it's sorry. I was just going to say, I think it's important to definitely acknowledge the fact that they are two people and they are members of society. And to create inclusive activities, inclusivity in society abroad. And I think that is really the goal of today's show as well, is to bring up that matter, bring awareness and inclusivity into the community. So thank you so much for that. I'm sorry, Alika, go ahead.
No, it's brilliant. I'm learning a lot. Sometimes I'm amazed how these things we talk about impact me even during live shows. And even though we care about it, Michelle, we choose this baby because we care about them. But again, whilst we're dealing with them live, it just kind of like blows my mind. These things that we don't know. We think we have an idea, we see, but and so really appreciate your input and your contribution, Dr. Avisha, for really appreciate it. If someone who doesn't, let's say for someone who's never lived with a person with disability, they've never experienced it themselves, and they see someone with it, help us understand how we can connect, right? How we can not be apprehensive, or apprehensive is not probably the right word, but for lack of a better word, how can some people like that connect or socialize without having any skepticism, right, with a person who may have a disability? Because a lot of times in our head, when we see someone who may be acting or doing a little or behaving not so much that in a way that we used to, right? We tend to have a certain attitude, for feeling towards them, right? So help us make that connection so that we know that it's okay. I mean, they're not they're just regular people, but act differently. So if you can help us make that connection.
The one thing that I'll lead with in answering that question is that one of our deepest longings as human beings is to be seen and understood. And so I think if we start from that point of connecting with people at the human level, having a human experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell a quick story. I started my career as a social worker working with folks who were struggling with homelessness. And one of the things that I would hear individuals say repeatedly is the hardest thing for them as homeless people was for people to not make eye contact, to walk by them on the street and to never acknowledge them because they were so fearful that they would say, ask them for something. And so as a rule, when I see people that are homeless, I look them in the eye and I say, hello, good morning, how are you? Right. So I'm inviting them into a human experience and saying, I see you. And I think that while it's obviously a different dynamic, the same is true for a person living with a disability, is to offer them a little piece of humanity by saying, I see you, how are you? And just starting there. Just starting there and allowing a little bit of time for processing and being okay with not receiving a response that may feel typical to you.
Why is that important?
I think it's just part of our desire as human beings. It's our deepest longing is to be seen. It's what we want from our partners. It's what we want from our kids. It's what we want from our colleagues, is to be recognized for the experience that we're having as humans.
Thank you.
So eloquently put. So with that, you talked earlier about someone asked a question about the police, right? And we talked about briefly the the school to prison pipeline, right? And how it impacts individuals with disabilities. And then we know as society as a whole may actually ignore these individuals and act as if they don't even, exist. And even in our own community, like you said, the stigma of just talking about it, and the spiritual aspect where we think we may be able to pray it away, right? How are you able with your community that you serve, are able to educate the public around, in the community, to build a support system with the community around those that you serve?
I think in multiple ways. For one, this is why I am looking forward to opportunities like this to really talk about what it means to navigate the world as a person with a disability, how we can support, how we can be allies for those people and what they're experiencing. I think the other piece too, this is why this cookbook project was really important. So while it's a collection of amazing recipes, I've had the fortune of tasting all of them. So the recipes are amazing, but in between those recipes are stories of our students and their resilience and the things that they've overcome and sort of the ways that we approach it at the I Can Dream Center. And so it's not your regular cookbook. It really expresses the experiences that our students are having and how they've really shown up in the world as resilient.
Now, when will that cookbook be available? Will it be for sale? Will it be?
Yes, it will be for sale. We have a projected July release date. We're super excited about it. Yes.
That's exciting. Well, I definitely want to support. Will it be available on your website at all?
On our website, on Amazon, yes, across the board. So coming soon.
Coming soon. Okay. Thank you. If let's see here. Let's see if we can break another, maybe some comments. So many theories, but no answers. Yes, so many theories, but no answers. We would try and see if we can get some medical professionals to give us some answers. But it is difficult to get answers. You're right. Even medical doctors would give you a whole long theory and try to make sense out of it. At the end of the day, you get confused. You're not sure what the answer is. But I think more importantly is what we can do about it now. And so that's why we are grateful for people like Dr. Avisha Ford and with her organization and what they're doing. All right, so here I'm trying to see if you can get some comments. So they went to okay, we already read this. Yes, they said we could. They said he couldn't, but he did. Tawana Booth, I don't know what comments you were responding to with your comment. So feel free to clarify. This one is from Astivan. Super great show, guys. Watching live from Ghana. Yes, it's about It's past midnight in Ghana. It's at 1 a.m. in Ghana. So thank you so much, Asti, for staying up and watching this. I hope that you pass it on, share it, and help people because this is very important, especially in Ghana. I wish a lot of Africans would be watching this show because the stigma to um, disabilities and autism and all of this conversation within the African community is deep. It's huge. It's something that we have to work on as Africans. We kind of handle it a bit differently, and I feel like we have a lot of room to improve on how we treat people with disabilities and whatnot, and how we see them, how we even perceive them in the first place, let alone treat, and socialize with them. So I am hoping that we can get this conversation going. So Evelyn, Asti, and all the Africans watching, please let's help share it, and for everyone actually. But more so, I mean, I can speak for because Africa is my community, so I know the dynamics.
Can
But
I add something, Alinko, to that?
yes, go ahead.
I have presented at many conferences on autism and various aspects of serving individuals with disabilities. And I would say that the one that's been the most meaningful to me was presenting in Nairobi at the Pan African Congress on Autism. It was amazing. It was a gathering of people from across Africa and the Middle East, really with the same heart toward programming and improving services for individuals with autism. It was amazing.
Brilliant. Now, did you experience anything close to what I'm saying?
I did. I spoke with so many people from everywhere about what their challenges were in terms of programming. So the folks at the conference thought obviously had a similar approach that I would, but then they talked about the barriers. In fact, when I started my session, which I think was supposed to be 75 minutes, I realized that what I intended to speak about had really been covered. And so what I did was I presented to the audience sort of my background and my experience, and I invited them to ask questions about how they might pull from the things that I had experienced. And the session ended up being about 3 hours. None of us went to lunch. They would not let me leave that room till they got their answers. So, but it was amazing, and made several connections in Ghana, in Kenya, and in South Africa.
Oh, you went to Ghana?
I haven't been to Ghana, but
okay. So while you were
supposed to be in Ghana the year of the pandemic.
Sorry, what'd you say?
The conference was supposed to move from Kenya to Ghana the year of the pandemic, and it didn't happen.
Oh, okay. So while in these 3 countries, I'm sure you enjoyed all kinds of foods. Is anyone that stuck with you?
Too much. Any food that stuck with me. You know what? I was surprised that I really, I love eating all different types of food. I think that I probably enjoyed, surprisingly, antelope more than I had sort of anticipated.
Wow, antelope meat.
Yes.
You must have had that in Kenya or Ghana.
I had it. I haven't been to Ghana. I had it in Kenya and in Cape Town.
Antelope meat. That is a serious delicacy in I know at least in Ghana. It's I've actually been to hunting with my uncles and hunted down some antelopes. Literally have seen them bring it home, like we catch them. Of course I wasn't part of it, but I follow the crowd with the dogs and everything. Man, okay, that's a powerful story to share. Wow. Okay. Antelope.
The antelope meat of the autism conference.
Antelope. Wow. Okay, so great. I thought you were going to mention how Kenyans drink milk with everything. Almost everything they eat. There's always a milk serving with everything, whatever food they're eating. Milk is like how we have juice with food here in America. That's what milk is for Kenyans. And so I thought you would have experienced that. But thank you for sharing that background. There was a question from Tim. I don't know. I think Michelle, you had it up earlier.
Yes, Dr. Evisha Ford, how can we volunteer?
Great question. I want to answer the question you asked before about how we're spreading awareness. We have interns every single year at Icon Gym Center since we've opened. My hope is that even if the interns don't leave and decide that this is, as a speech path, as a social worker, as a teacher, that this is necessarily the population that you want to work with, that they leave with a toolkit on how to advocate for these people and their families. So that's one of the ways that we contribute. It's a sneaky little way. Come intern with us and you'll leave as an ally. We have volunteers. You can just send us a note through our website on at icandreamcenter.com. We have Saturday programming that we need volunteers. That we are always looking for career speakers. So each Friday morning, we invite a career speaker in, not only just to expose our young people to various career paths, but we really invite you to tell your story. Tell us about what barriers you've overcome to get to where you are. Because conceivably, if you can overcome your barrier, then I'm empowered to overcome my barrier. Then it's not necessarily inhibiting my success. And so we invite people into the I Can Dream Center week after week to say, tell us about the ways you're resilient, and then throw in, tell us what you do for a living too. And so we're always looking for presenters at the I Can Dream Center. You can do it virtually, you can do it in person. We love having people that are in the culinary arts to come lend their services to us for the day, to cook with us, to show us how to make some great food. And also, we love mystery readers for our littles, our early childhood program. We've had people come in wedding dresses, and I came dressed like a crayon one day. And so just to come read to our students books, specifically those who are authors of multicultural books. We buy books from authors and for our young people, and we say, come read to our class and share with us. Invite us into a new world through reading.
Must you be a chef to participate in these programs?
Not at all.
Okay, cool. So
we have
maybe
bakers and
maybe we can
ice cream
volunteer.
maker.
Okay, maybe we can volunteer and come make some jollof rice.
Oh my
show
goodness. I'm on a diet, Alinko. So maybe
Well,
we can do that like a little into the summer.
nice, no problem, no problem.
Yes.
Hey, Michelle, looks like something that you and I can go and share our stories, with
I would
sometime.
love to. I
Yeah,
would love to even volunteer.
yeah.
I love volunteering. I love working with youth. That is definitely a heart of mine. So I would love to connect with you offline, Dr. Ford, really,
Please,
to
please.
follow up with you on that. So thank you.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. It's 7:42 p.m. I hope that up to by this point, by this time, you would have gotten a few things from what we have discussed so far in the area of dealing with disabilities. In this month, we urge you all to keep the word up, keep spreading the word, keep encouraging folks, and keep changing mindsets, because this is how we make our world a better place. We would like to end the show by 7:45. We usually take it to 8, but today we're going to end at 7:45. Sometimes we go all the way. Sometimes it's an hour, depending on the content, but usually we go 2 hours. Today has been very, very impactful as always. Michelle, you want to, I don't know if you have any last comments or questions as we try to bring this curtain down.
I do. I just wanted to say, Dr. Ford, you really are an inspiration. And congratulations for everything that you've done, all of the families that you are helping and impacting. And I know that your legacy is definitely going to outlive you. So congratulations on what you've built. And again, I want to connect with you offline to help support your efforts as well. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share the story. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. We'll go to Dr. Ford to give us her last words. 7:45, and we want to remind you all, if you just joined us, do not forget to go on Eventbrite and check this event out. The exchange ceremony, you can buy your tickets now. Early bird tickets, definitely try, make sure you get in it, and also invite friends to check it out. That's all the information and details that you need about this event is on Eventbrite. It's also on our website, thepmsshow.com or theprogressivemindshow.com. We are 501c, and so we encourage you all to keep donating to help our cause. And we're looking for video editors. We're looking for volunteers as well. So any way you think you can help this grow, please contact us at info@thepmsshow.com or info.theprogressivemindshow.com. Info.progressivemindShow.com. No, I'm sorry. That first email confused me. Info.progressivemindshow@gmail.com. You can also ring 815 409-9123. You could additionally social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can contact us via that way. Make sure you keep the conversation going on in your homes. At this point, we would like to get our the last words for today's episode from Dr. Evisha Ford.
I just want to say thank you all so much for setting time aside to talk about this important topic, particularly in our community. It's important, it's timely, and I just want to continue to keep that for everyone to keep in mind that it's the person first and the disability second. And so there are so many people that are amazing and have so much to offer, and that we have so much to glean from who are persons living with autism. And so thank you for highlighting this important topic and the work of I Can Dream Center as well as the Answering.
Well, you know where to volunteer now. I Can Dream Center. Go on their website and lend your services. They will love it. We are planning to do the same. It will be an honor to come there and interact with you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Michelle, any comments before we close out?
Yes, I wanted to thank you everyone for tuning in. It was a pleasure to serve on the panel with you, Dr. Ford, as well as Deborah Vines, who was here with us earlier. And thank you to our viewers for being so gracious and staying with us throughout the show, and just for your encouraging comments and inspiration.
Brilliant. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. This has been your host, Alinko, with my co-host,
Michelle.
Brilliant. We shall be here next week, Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central. We'll be talking about message in our music. Stay tuned and be good. Have a good evening, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.